on that note, Sam here moves forward with OpiWrites as the opponent here for Martini. Martini's going to need to do something special because generally I think they're going to be considered a heavy underdog. That being said, people have been very hot on Martini recently. You want to explain why, Yosh?
Oh, right. So in Hedgehog Hotel, which is a complimentary tournament to Summer Cups that ran last year, Martini has employed a very unorthodox, shall we say, strategy where you don't really look at people doing missions, but you rather look at how they move between the mission sites and just using it to achieve a lot of very nice highlights and getting a lot of progress as the game goes on, with more and more people exhibiting some prime signs of being AIs and just being AI controlled in general. I believe it has blossomed beautifully in this particular tournament, where Martini has taken second place in Group Donner behind Crash and has beaten Beanie, a very esteemed player in his own right, in the round of 24. However, in this case, definitely an underdog. I believe that OpiWrites is probably the most consistent player at the top of Spy Party for the time being. Just being very solid, winning his group, getting to the round of 16 without having to play an extra match. And yeah, we'll see how much Martini will be able to bring up to the table
Yeah,
to
we've
counter.
we've seen other good pathing snipers, perhaps the Godfather of it, Canadian Bacon, Grash more recently, but we've also seen someone like Yerend, who's had a lot of success all the way up to Diamond, and actually gave OpiWrites fits previously. So I'm interested to see how the OpiWrites spy games go. OpiWrites Sniper, of course, lethal. Looking at the picks and bans, it's going to be the things that we were mentioning previously, because we got it the wrong way around. Let's go through them. Yoshi, have them up?
Yes, as spoken previously, Martini will win the coin flip, but winning the coin flip doesn't matter much. You just choose in which order the people pick their sets and ban their venues. And OpiWrites will be made to pick first. He will pick Modern Madness, which is just a lot of like city venues, I'm going to presume is the conceit. While
It's
Martini,
as far as I can tell, I think it's newer setups of. I mean, no venue is particularly new, but like the setups are fairly novel.
that makes sense. Thank you very much. Martini, on his side, will very appropriately pick Taking Shots, which is a venue all about taking shots, and the lists alongside them. Martini will then ban Terrace out of the venues, while OpiWrites bans his long-lasting nemesis in Aquarium. Modern Madness will be played first, and Martini will be our first sniper.
Interestingly enough, Opioids gets 4 venues through, while Martini gets 2 because Martini feels obligated to ban one of the venues that is part of the set that they picked, which is an option they have. So we're not going to be seeing that terrace here. I love the screen transitions here on the stream with the snow. They're so beautiful. You know what's also beautiful? Just the game of Spy Party in general, and the map of
Oh,
Modern. Let's get it started here. It's going to be any 4 of 8. The party is full. We got all 21 of us, but one of us is the spy. It's the one with the green arrow. It's OpiWrites here as general. Welcome to Winter Cup round of 16. Let's get started. 3, 2, 1. Playing it.
very poor ST choice by our esteemed player. But we go straight to the bar, we get offered, we delegate, and we get highlight for it.
Yeah, I think it was so quick that there's no chance that we drop this highlight. I'm interested to see if there's any more behavioral knowledge gotten from this, or especially since OP probably should be doing the purloin. You don't do this sort of play without doing the purloin. What results of it? The concern for OP is that laser was clearly on us at the beginning of the party. Maybe they don't do the purloin just because they know they already have the heat.
The one thing that really seemed to work for Martini in the group stage was just a lot of very early highlights on the spy, which has been stumping me for a while until I think I've got a working theory. I think he just highlights people who do the first things every game. Like just very early activity, maybe some take control shenanigans, but I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah,
But
it definitely did feel like a take control, but it's also just it felt like a spy trying to do something. So behaviorally, etiquetely, or even just trying to protect the missions, it's a good highlight. And OpiWrites doesn't get the delegate off, by the way. Duke does take a drink, but does not take the list with it, leaving OpiWrites with just half a flirt in their mission progress so far.
I like the idea behind it, trying to send someone to the bar chase, and even if it doesn't take, it just provides more confusion on the venue, more commotion, and also provides someone to try and maybe frame for the purloin. As of now, we just go to the red bookshelf. Martini is clearly keeping us in the frame, as we know that behavioralist highlights are fickle and can be brought down at any moment. So
The
there's a bug.
disgusting general bug. General notably has one of the best bugs, and while OP really just stealing the ambassadors' change, their lunch money here, while also getting the bug on them, it's really hard to see just because of the character that we chose, and largely, I would suspect one of the reasons why OP chose this character. We are now closer to our expected mission count. With now, we should actually also get flirt here and the green test too. We're halfway done with our missions, with about half the time done.
If OpiWrites has one of the higher green test rates, and being able to choose to green your flirts is a very nice asset to have, as I'm pressure will happen at some point, and just not having to talk as much with other people is a pretty useful thing to have in life, as I have figured out at some point.
The path
We
was
are
atrocious, by the way, and it can finally mention bad paths because Martini is more reliable to shoot them than almost anybody that I do get to cast. Opie writes here, this is going to be just half the inspects. You never need to shoot for this. That you can watch for the swap, and this laser has come over in a way that it definitely feels like the swap could be being watched.
Yeah, this is definitely a I'm definitely watching you swapping, please do not swap kind of angle, and there we don't even try to finish our inspects. We just go to the second statue because it has a fingerprint on it. The fingerprint will of course be collected. I believe we had
Yeah,
connected with our green pests,
this is
but
so aggressive, and Martini finds it. After sidestepping over to a fingerprintable statue, which the whole point of doing that sort of play is kind of like hoping that they just saw you at statues and didn't really uh, pin that you stepped over to the fingerprintable statue into another fingerprint is very much on the nose. And Martini, in addition to all the other heat and information that they got throughout the game, is able to comfortably take that shot on Opie Writes, despite a really good bug. If Opie can get bugs like that in the future, I think they'll be fine. But it's just a bit blunt, I would say.
yeah, Martini does shoot for those. Speaking of Martini shooting, we do see ours spawn with a drink actually on this map. Playing as Hair slash Red Dress slash Oprah. We do have a lot of different names for the characters, but let's not wait for longer and let's begin our game in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Yeah, Red Dress here, I think, is quickly falling off the super meta of being really good, but people not necessarily noting it. It shouldn't be a surprise. She's just one of the better characters. Unlike someone like General, though, she doesn't necessarily get the heat for it. She's just kind of generally good instead of a particular reason, like a really good bug.
Generally good. I see what you did there. We do end up in a conversation right next to our seduction target, which means that flirt is probably going to be attempted at some point in the future, as in now. White test 34%, Martini not as proficient in the rapid clicking as OP is, but still,
Yeah,
some progress is progress.
we saw fairly early in the game for Martini's sniper a good 8 highlights. The party was just lit up like a Christmas tree. In this game, OP just has the ambassador highlight, and that's it. We are not seeing any highlights here from OP, and we're not seeing particularly any lowlights. That's typical for them. They usually do save their lowlights for just hard alibis, like being outside of a conversation during banana bread.
Banana bread.
But it does show a huge difference in the styles of play that we're going to see throughout the set.
Speaking of, there's the banana bread. There are a few highlights. I feel like we might have missed one or two, but I wouldn't put it past myself to be incorrect.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Martini's spy or sorry, sniper. I'm interested to see what their spy is going to do against someone like OpiWrites. It really does need to be a fantastic game, or you really need to bamboozle them if you're going to expect to get a win. A fingerprint, definitely a good start. I think a difficult fingerprint is going to be even more of
Can
this
we
sort of thing.
bug on the exit?
You can't bug facing the sniper against someone like Opie writes. You're gonna get shot for that against most players, but doubly so when you're playing against what is really the most consistent, powerful sniper that we see in Spy Party. It's gonna be 1-1.
And the bug is almost good if the laser is just lingering on the left a little bit longer. This little pillar on the window just occludes us so unintentionally and yet well that it is almost a good play. Unfortunately, the laser swings. OP is a good sniper after all.
I
Catches
think
us in
I
the
think we
act.
got in a wrong arm there. The door or the pillar that you're referencing to might have come more into use. But like mechanically getting the arm to be the arm that isn't closest to the ambassador is a real trick and not something that players, at least until fairly recently, were able to do very consistently in the way that they wanted. We move on to a setup that I will take credit for. This was the idea of trying to find something that works with pub that because this venue has been pretty notorious for having trouble finding setups that feel fair. The big thing here is look at the top right. We have 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That's so little time compared to 4 minutes and 30 seconds on Modern. The thing is, we have 3 of 7 on missions. What that results in is the sniper is panicking because 3 of 7 missions is really hard to deal with. There's a lot of people on this party too. For the spy, they just simply do not have enough time to comfortably do things like timer flirt or like set up the perfect banana bread because there's only 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. OpiWrites is going to try this as twin. We can see the other twin here on screen too. See if that comes into play too. But let's do it in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
In my credentials, I have come up with the name of the setup, and there's a very quick bug overrides
That path is also awful. The bug doesn't stick. Everything here for Opie writes, other than the fact that we're gonna get an inspect and
and the
didn't get
highlight.
a highlight immediately. Oh, we're rushing. The ambassador here is in position where we could also potentially bug. We could also purloin.
Oh,
Opie
and
writes also in the position where they might be blocking the statue in some spots.
I think knowing that Martini does do a lot of pathing, specifically on this map, I believe this is one of the more iconic ones for his particular playstyle. We do take the list as well.
No, don't shoot No! The
This
swap there from Wheels distracting from the fact that we've done the purloin. He
and look
had
at
two
the
different
angle as well.
options. Yeah, two
Look at the
options.
angles that Martini is taking because
Ugh.
with the pathing, you really are looking at people exiting and entering the pub itself. But it is the perfect angle for OpiWrites to just get away with a purloin because it is blocked by Toby out of all people.
Yeah, and I think we saw why OP Rights was happy to pick the newer venues. Had a really good game plan here. Maybe just because of the way the situation occurred, where they ended up already where they were, but playing it really well. And Martini, if you're catching the swap, it's a 50-50 between Twin and Wheels. If you're catching the Purloin, it's 100%. But I mean, this is the cleverness of the play. Opie Wrights doing the Purloin while the swap is also happening results in a lot of confusion, a lot of stress, and Martini not reacting correctly. It's going to be Opie Wrights 2-1. I got hiccups.
That is unfortunate, but getting a spy game past yourself is a very, very hard situation to find yourself in those sets, especially as we are playing against one of the better people in the community because Sniper is a little bit easier to play, I would say. So Martini will choose to play Pearls on this spy game, which is a very interesting choice in of itself. But let's talk about it once we get into the game in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Yeah, pub can be a fairly small map if the things that you want to do are inside the pub, so pearls is not a problem in that instance. Time ads also are great when every time ad that you're doing is adding 25% more time to the clock. Uh, the problem is if the selection target or the ambassador things that we want to deal with are out in this far conversation, it's going to take us a while. I think the time ad does also just kind of help in the sense that now that we're playing pearls and we're slow, having a bit more time is kind of counts it out by the fact that we have 45 more seconds. I didn't see like a particularly dramatic response there from OpiWrites regarding the time ad. This
Sure,
spot in
that
conversation is definitely illegal, and we don't even get rewarded for it. The seduction target has left us before we were able to get the flirt in. We still have no progress, actually.
I mean, but only 10 seconds have passed of the game, so
Fair enough. Yeah, we started with 2:30. The clock is now about 2:15, and we're standing here with the other slowest character, twiddling our thumbs. It is 3 of 7. If we, for example, just were to go to the bar and purloin, or just say banana bread, someone might die, and we don't necessarily need to play this aggressively, but we just have nothing so far.
there are quite a few people that we can frame. For example, our seduction target has inspected and is now picking up a drink. Could be a potential purloin finish for us to get the things done, but also requires Alice to actually get somewhere where we can talk to her.
Yeah, Ambassador asking to be bugged, but if you're not taking it
Banana
straight as they
bread.
come into the conversation, you're never taking it. This is a really good banana bread. It does put Mom, who splits, and Alice, who we've already noted as quite suspicious, super high on the list. OP writes it's got to be stressed. They're just super zoomed in on the conversation, looking for talks. We're down to flirt watching. Nothing that Martini's going to do here unless they really try and rush at the end, kind of what we just saw with Opie, but at the very end of the game is going to particularly matter. It's going to come down to the sniper, and if they can hold this shot.
I mean, we can try to attempt some more aggressive things to try and frame our targets of choice, but I don't think the timer will allow us to do so because I'm pretty sure the delegate has already expired for Alice. And yeah, the only issue with the banana bread is that it's not real for us, but I don't think we're intending to finish in any way, shape, or form anyway. So
Needs to die. After the banana bread and the split there, she's now going to inspects. This could potentially be a delayed shot here. Alice also looks like she just is potentially flirting, getting near the ambassador. Opie writes hasn't bought onto the story yet that the spy is trying to finish. And we're out here doing 51% flirts. It doesn't matter. It looks like Opie writes just doesn't believe the story that Martini's trying to sell.
I feel like a red test could have been better on the flirt, just trying to send our seduction target somewhere, hoping that they will accomplish something that is suspicious in the eyes of Opie. But here, unfortunately, just not enough time for us to do anything, or rather for someone else to do anything, because we are there talking for almost the entire duration of the game,
Yeah,
not
really
even
good
moving.
hold there from Opie. We saw, I mean, we're always going to see characters doing things like going to statues. The banana bread really did give a lot of suspicion to a lot of players on the map. Uh, Inspect, flirt, and contact are 3 missions. But I think Opie was just like really good on like the flirts and really willing to hold here. Perhaps like seeing this play coming because this is just otherwise just hard to explain beyond just saying that Opie is good at Spy Party, which isn't news.
Now, because there are 4 sets of 4 venues, you do get some venues repeating. Usually, there is some kind of switch up between those, but in this particular case, I believe we do have a second set of pub of exactly the same setup. 2:30 on the clock. OpiWrites playing as the Duke, spawning in the pub, but not too far into the pub. And this might be a games where Martini finally gets to at least take back the tie, bring it back to the equal situation, and try to find something afterwards.
Yeah, this is one of those weird spots where opioids can do what worked previously and try and rush or do something differently. And the sniper's never going to really know until it happens which one the spy has decided to do. We don't know until we hit this button. So let's go hit that button in 3, 2, 1, hitting it.
The button has been hit. And we have successfully bugged.
The answer is the exact same thing. We're going bug into statues. We could even swap this too. We've got the highlight for the inspect, but it doesn't feel like the bug was necessarily noted. If we wanted to swap, we could, but we have 2 minutes to do one more mission. We're in such a good spot.
And you might say that repeating the same playstyle over and over again is a bad situation, and in this case, Martini actually does credit it with
Yeah,
a shot. But
OpiWrites trying to do the path. There was a lot of effort in that path, but Martini's just not going to reward it. Really good stuff from Martini, just knowing the pathing on this map, because I don't see any other reason why you'd shoot at that particular moment.
yeah,
Martini
and
is a
this,
Martini's a big fan of shooting for disrespecting Damon there, so that is most likely the cause.
I mean, disrespecting Damon is a crime in of itself, so unfortunately, it's not in the list of missions, so OpiWrites will not get any extra credit and will just get shot. However, on the other side, we do have Martini himself pressing the smallman button and spawning outside.
What
All
can I
right, you.
say? So 3, 2, 1, playing it.
So repeating the same playstyle game after game is maybe not the best thing, but allow me to put it in a different way. Martini's playstyle heavily relies on AIs doing AI things and getting a lot of lowlights on partial information. So he really gets stronger the longer the game goes, and OpiWrites has been a proponent of just doing stuff, one of the biggest headliners of Team Do Stuff, as a matter of fact. So it's really expected, and I feel like it's one of the better things you can do, just taking an advantage of your opponent's sniper and playing against that instead of just trying to come up with a general spy plans that can bring you to victory.
We had so many people at the bar. Martini doing what is an AI-like thing to do and just walk away before being offered, just being impatient here. But it would have been a decent purloin. You don't usually get to see purloins where 5 or 6 people are potentially the delegator, not to mention the person who ends up taking. We do see a pathing low light from Opie. Even he is willing to reward the bounce. We did see why that's not necessarily the best idea in our gallery games from the last set, but it was so obviously an AI, and even a campy OP will take some lowlights. Meanwhile, we have 85% flirt, and we are going to be moving inside the bar, see what their mission choice is here. Could be another time ad.
Could be. Martini is. Oh, that's a bug.
And OP, I'm not 100% sure he was really cognizant that Martini and Smallman were there. It was taking a bit of a weird angle. I think the bug could be suspected, but I don't think it was seen.
I think we were looked at, but I also believe that the bug was not seen at all. We will finally finish our flirt, and now it's a moment of truth. We need to wait for a double agent to find at least some form of conversation if we want to banana bread, or we need to find one other mission to complete.
Yeah, I
There
was
is
gonna say this could be a silent game, but it wouldn't be by choice. We need to go do something like inspects. Even inspects here is pretty rough. It's gonna probably trigger overtime. Martini just trying to get there in time. We're gonna pick up the statue before 10 seconds, but we're not gonna get
we are
the
highlight,
inspect
but
done.
there will be an overtime.
There's no dancing opportunity here for Smallman. That's a pretty rare thing. We're gonna have about 4 seconds of overtime, and Martini is just
3,
taking a really
2,
weird path. We're gonna be the shot, and it's just come off. I believe that's going to be for Opie. Opie does get the win there. It was so close on time. Let's look at those timestamps.
and we were talking about how gallery is a hard venue to get the banana bread on, but I believe pub can actually be the hardest one if the double agent just refuses to do anything
Yeah.
valuable for us.
Looking at stream, the timestamps are hidden behind our results. The result being OP1. But the final inspect here was a white test, and so the inspect finished at 4.8. The shot was at minus 2.8, and the game truly considered spy shot by the sniper with about 8 seconds into overtime. I think with a green test on the inspect, it would have been a bit quicker. But really, it's a bit of misfortune. I think if we had the opportunity to go pick up the rightmost statue, the other statue, we would have not had to trigger overtime. It would have been a harder decision for OpiWrites. With what occurred there with both statues being held for us having to go to the further one, it results in OpiWrites finding a win where they didn't necessarily deserve it like they have in the other games. Just missing a bug is not something that OpiWrites is particularly familiar with. It's something that
Oh,
he's
and
very good at catching.
we are completely behind the pillar on the box, so it's completely unseen. Can be still granted, and I feel like there might be some opportunities to dance around that little pillar on the wall in the end there, but Martini will keep walking straight and will get shot.
Yeah, I
With
mean, Damon almost ended up being cover, which I've never seen before there. Really touch and go stuff here at the end of pub. That was 4 pub games, and Martini more or less in the position I was kind of expecting, 4-2 down, but playing well. They definitely do have potential here to get either spy wins or sniper wins against OP. Unfortunately, they just need both of them if they're going to actually win this set. They'll get that started with OpiWrites playing here, Mom, on Redwoods in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
And this is probably my biggest question about the draft because I believe that Martini hasn't been a fan of redwoods throughout just because the trees make it hard to see where people are going. But in the meantime, OP writes, gonna start bugging, OP rush, everything that he does.
Okay, I thought we were about to get shot there, and I was gonna find it hilarious if we got away with the bug and then found a way to die anyways. Obi Wright's gonna be a highlight here for just going to the bar. We do also look like we're flirting, but we're not. And with a mission in pocket, we're in a good position. We definitely have the possibility of delegating. There has been a busy bar. Anybody who gets sent is likely to result in a decent amount of suspects. But with the highlight, it will be fairly easy for Martini to narrow down who could have done the purloin. So I'm interested to see how this actually ends up resulting.
We are right next to our seduction target, so I believe we can just flirt and immediately send them to Purloin. There's a flirt, 51% on the tracker there, and no. Sick will just do a sick flip and move while we delegate another person standing right next to us.
We see a low light there on red dress, which could come into play here if the purloin does actually go off. It's going to be really close on the clock. Uh, and if the purloin goes off and is handed to a low light, it does go off. We do finish our flirt with C coming straight back to us. We have 3 missions. Let's see how long it takes for this purloin to be noticed.
And the thing here is Martini knows that Rachel is very suspicious. But
Oh no, a bug seen Phantom, because of course the AI didn't bug as they go into the bar. Potentially also related to the fact that Toby no longer has a list over there.
and
But
also look on the delegate animation, it just looks like a lean.
yeah, exactly. Martini seeing things that aren't there, and it's going to result in the loss. I think this is a bit of a benefit of Obi Wright's playing general earlier, is just really making Martini nervous just about bugs in general. Not that he caught the first bug in the first place.
That's one of the benefits to the whole playstyle. You start freaking out about things that you might have missed and just imagining way more progress on the partygoers compared to what they actually might have had. Either way, let's switch up the sides and see what Martini will try and do to bring things back a little bit together on Redwoods as a spy as stacks in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Interestingly, this is the first game of Redwoods we've seen where the character who the spy is controlling is not wearing teal.
So that's good. Wearing ducks is bad for your health.
What color do you consider this? Is this just purple, by the way, on the coat, or is there like a fancy word for this? I know English isn't necessarily your first language, but is this actually purple or is it like pink?
I believe the fancy word that I have heard at some point, but I kind of like in just describing this color is magenta.
Magenta, yeah, there we go.
Everyone
Master
knows
Joy
this character
Bar.
is tax or cowboy because of the hat. And,
Yeah, the
you know,
hat's more important than the ridiculous color of the jacket. This is going to be a good thing to do. We're following the ambassador to the bar. We will get a fingerprint here, and it's the sort of thing with just the amount of noise that Redwoods has that might be gotten away with. Unlike a briefcase, there isn't much to it. If you catch it or you don't, uh, it's all you have when you're on a map like Redwoods. This is one step away from the spot that I really like to do. Time adds, Martini agrees. This is often just has random tree cover, despite being right at the front of the party, just because of the angles that the sniper likes to hold.
And, we get a delegate right as someone joins us, so we don't actually get a talking animation because when you delegate, you have to talk, but if you're the only one in the conversation, you don't. So the animation just cancels itself and the delegate is sent. We do gulp the drink and we do go to pick up a book, maybe find some inspects, maybe find a microfilm in a book. Who knows?
Yeah, so this inspect is kind of being covered by the fact that we're doing the purloin, or potentially the other way around, doing the inspect and potentially getting a highlight might make the purloin noticed a bit later. Either way, good timing here from Martini. And we didn't actually take a highlight for going to the book. That doesn't mean Opie didn't see it. I think he likes doing his highlights when he
Banana
believes that
bread.
people have finished inspects. But we
Mhm.
have 2 missions done. We're in a really good spot with our inspects, with our prints. The only thing that we don't have so far is seduce, but even that's possible still because of the time ad.
Love is a harsh mistress, and it's probably easier to just get a second fingerprint around the party anyways and try to find a good compliment to say to the target to really seduce them.
Okay, what's the plan here, Martini? Chilling here in a conversation after a banana bread isn't a bad thing, but we do need to get moving at some point. Seduce here is optimistic, and it's not going to work. Both optimistic in that seduction target had been there for a while, but also that we simply just didn't have any seduce on the table, and now we do have a win condition. Ambassador, no! I was going to say, Ambassador could potentially pick up the statue, give us the statue and a fingerprintable statue to get both the final missions that we need. Instead, we're coming over to this statue, which I don't believe has a fingerprint, and we'll need to get our fingerprint or other mission elsewhere.
And there's a
Swap,
swap, and this is
pending.
going to be a green. We are highlighted because we have finished our inspects, as you were saying. And OP has actually moved the laser quite an amount of times in that direction, so we
We
are
also got
pretty
safety
suspicious.
safety off. If Martini can pull a bit of suspicion away from the statue, potentially just by walking at the ambassador like this, it's gonna really potentially
Statue
help.
has been swapped,
But
and
Opie
there's
Rice
a
is all
shot.
over it. Yeah,
It
Martini trying to pull Opie's eyes away from the statue, but I mean you can see on the sniper replay there, it's just something that the sniper is ready for. They did do the safety off both as a way to like inform us that they were very suspicious of Tex after the inspects. I mean, in honesty, it's the fourth mission, right? With
Mhm.
Purloin done and contact and swap, or sorry, and inspects done. The only thing that we're actually missing is seduce, and OpiWrites on Redwoods has probably no clue that we have no actual seduction done, especially since we have been in conversations talking. It's just not been with our seduction target. So I think we could have honestly been shot there
Where's the inspects,
for the
just
inspects.
the inspects. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm actually surprised that we didn't get shot, but I like the idea of OP just taking a little bit more time, waiting out, just being more cautious, probably knowing that Martini does not actually have too much seduce progress, because, as we might have noticed in the games prior, not really the fastest spy.
Banana.
This score is really harsh, by the way. OP Wrights is up 6-2. It's match point, but I don't think OP Wrights has been outplaying Martini, where that's actually a fair score. I would have expected if we'd watched this and you told me the score, I would have guessed 5-3, for example. OP Wrights has definitely been the better player and definitely been the more solid player. But Martini's making winning chances on the regular, and definitely has the ability to bring some of this back. 6-2 is just a hard deficit, and it'd be very exciting if we were able to get into something like overtime, for example. But for now, we're on High Rise. There's been an additional mission added from our regular proceedings. It's going to be 3 of 6 with no microfilm and no fingerprint. And Obi Wright is playing as Alice in 3, 2, 1. playing it.
And if you are asking why we are using swap instead of fingerprint, it's because you have to choose either swap or transfer as a part of balancing out the venue. And we also get highlight
Uh,
because Martini is a soul reader.
yeah, so I don't necessarily know what of that. There's a ton of highlights in the party. Um, but
He has been doing that every single game in the groups. He has been doing that in the round of 24. He always highlights a lot of people, but he always gets the spy with that.
yeah, that's good stuff there from Martini. I'm interested in having a conversation about this in the future without necessarily spoiling all the goods, because maybe it's just highlight everybody and you get the spy, and then everybody will think that you're spooky, because there are a lot of highlights. Just there's 5 in this particular conversation. All of the conversation now with pearls left is a highlight, not to mention Queen over there in the bookcase. So this isn't necessarily the cleanest play. These highlights don't mean that much when everybody's highlight. It's a kind of like syndrome from The Incredibles. If everybody's incredible, then nobody is. But that being said, we got 37% flirt. Really been a slow start here from Opie, and I think it's mainly what our sniper's up to.
And there's a bug, and
Banana
there's a
bread.
banana bread.
Yeah, that couldn't have been intentional.
Nah, surely that was an intentional bug. It just didn't take because the investor decided not to walk next to us.
Yeah, I think maybe we thought that Toby was coming behind us, or we're trying to do the banana bread, but I'm not even sure either of those things were intentional. I think we might have been thinking that Toby was coming behind us and done 2 different things, both unintentionally. Really weird stuff there, but welcome to Spy Party. Really weird stuff is what we specialize in. OpiWrites in a tough spot. We now about halfway through our clock, and we don't have half our missions done.
On the other hand, a pretty rough spot for Martini as well. The party is pretty static. We do have a Purloin pending, and half of the party is lit. There's only one person who's not high lit and not low lit, and that's our seduction.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was another bad path there by OpiWrites. But more importantly, a non-highlight is also taken the list, and Martini also has the opportunity to see the fade, with a lot of incentive to watch it too. With so many lowlights, there aren't that many interesting things to watch. So all things considered, it all adds up why Martini was able to take this shot. But it should be noted, not everybody who plays Spy Party has the ability to take this shot. Really good stuff there from Martini.
I mean, if your usual sniper is playing this game, there has been 2 lowlights and no highlights at all. Because there aren't that many people go into the statues, and there are. And the banana bread was actually pretty decent, I think.
Yeah, Legorv, I think, might have also been mad here about the quick leave at the windows.
It was another
If you're
4-second window stay.
Yeah, if you're gonna do this, guys, toss in a watch check. You make it somewhat legitimate. But even like a Smallman watch check stay still ends up being about 5 seconds. So Opie writes kind of just rushing, but not rushing like missions. He's just rushing through his activities, and I mean it's given Martini a breath of hope. So Opie writes 6-3 now, and we move on to the Martini spy game here in a 3 of 6. I mean, it's pretty hard to camp, so let's see what happens in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Also, the setup did not really change. We still have Purloin and Swap as our extra missions. I mean, not really extra, but just something to add on the list.
It's really interesting watching snipers who are good at pathing, like in the shooting, do pathing as a spy, because they still have to do things
Banana
like
bread.
get to the place that they want to be, and be flexible in regards to what moves around when the party is helping them move to do so. We do see the banana bread go off, a couple of lowlights. It's not the cleanest banana bread in the world, but we do have the mission in pocket. And we are presumably going to go try and do our flirt. Nah, briefcase, that's also good. Ambassador over at statue too, so we can gladly just pick this up. We're not getting a print actually, and hoping for Martini's sake that OpiWrites also knows that that briefcase doesn't have a print.
Prints are off.
Oh, prints are off, and then it's just
Yes,
trying to
indeed.
bait a low light from somebody who's never going to low light for you. Cool.
I like this play as an idea, especially if you know how those briefcase thingies work. But not rewarded in any way, shape, or form. We do, however, end up next to our seduction target and up with a 51% flirt, which is pretty nice for us because the timer is not going to be our friend and it hasn't been historically.
Yeah, and while we do have the option to do things like Purloin here, there's no chain. Oh, that can't survive, right? I think Toby was blocking it actually. Martini's gone away with a bug, and
Wow.
again, that's the second bug that Martini's gone away with pretty scot-free
Now we
in this
just need
set.
to finish our flirt, and that's just one green away from winning.
Yeah, if we're gonna get into this conversation, Cowboy is just taking our spot, and we don't really want to pass the ambassador in a suspicious way. Martini is just going to stuff themselves in there, step on a few feet, but if they get the green test, this is over, and I don't see Opie shooting for it.
And it is a green. 7 seconds on the clock. Will
This is
OpiWrites acknowledge
oh,
it? No, he won't.
I was gonna say if Toby comes behind us, we could do a cheeky purloin. Instead, we're doing the cheeky banana bread split cough. Martini tossing in a bit of bad manners in there, but you're playing against OpiWrites and you're bringing it back. I think it's justified. Good stuff there
Honestly,
from Martini.
this bug is actually quite nasty just because of the amount of different things that are in between the ambassador, us, and the sniper. Look at it.
Yeah. Oh, Kane also walked straight across it, and you can see on Opie's on Opie's laser that he does a little shake. He's just furious about it. I think he had to also watch out for Kane doing a bug, if not also just potentially Wheels, though Wheels was a low light. So really tough spot there, and Martini, the heads up play, I didn't see it coming when I was watching the game, but he surely did. Opie actually did too. He was watching for it, but it doesn't matter because of the amount of cover he had.
Yeah, a very nice play, just taking advantage of the party as it goes. But
Yeah.
we're going to yet another one of your fancy sniper arcade setups with Courtyard 3 out of 7.
Yeah, so this is again a 3 out of 7 with a super low clock. 2 minutes and 30 seconds is going to be pretty rough to do flirt. We saw previously OpiWrites just avoided that entirely by just doing swaps instead. We saw Martini avoid doing it by just doing nothing and hoping OpiWrites would shoot with Banana Bread said. Now we move on to Courtyard though. It's a slightly different map than Pub, but the same ideas stand. I'm interested to see how they play it with OpiWrites hitting the emergency smallman button after losing 2 games. Maybe feeling a bit pressured, or maybe feeling like he just wants to do time ads. One of these two things. In 3, 2, 1, playing it.
I mean, this is the last venue of the actual game set, and you probably don't want to take it to overtime because overtime is a clean slate and who knows what happens afterwards. So even if you still have that extra sniper game as your reserves, it's still nice to just click the button, go for a small one, hope that your opponent does not notice you, and get away with a 4 to 7 scoreline in the end.
Yeah, generally, if you're OpiWrites and you're coming into a Courtyard, you can feel pretty confident, even if you're playing the spy game, because you'll have the sniper game next. 3 of 7 sniping is not something that you want to be particularly happy about. It becomes a different venue entirely. The missions are still difficult. You're still going to have trouble with Purloin and Bug. Uh, but OpenRights kind of just followed Martini's playbook and just doing nothing in particular. If we were to Purloin right now, it would frame Twins so hard.
I really like this play. As a matter of fact, I love this play, especially like mostly just considering the meta of the match in particular, where we have been rushing a lot. We have been going for things, we have been taking plunges, and here we just don't. We just sit in the conversation. We don't path because pathing is a hard tell against Martini. We just sit there, talk, and wait for someone else to get shot.
Yeah, I recall back when I started playing Spy Party, I was playing against Piers, a notoriously strong sniper, and he got to a point where it's like I low lit this person because they were moving. It was like Alice going across ballroom 4 times, and she's like, "You've gotten so scared of moving that it possibly couldn't be you." without necessarily seeing anything beyond that. We are finishing missions, and we're going to do it quickly. OpiWrites hitting the big green test. The green test is going to come here towards that 10-second timer, and we saw this work previously. We saw Wheels get shot on pub.
And the
Now
highlight is
OpiWrites
called
is,
up.
yeah, OpiWrites getting as far away from it as possible, and Queen is shot. That'll be the set. Not even for swapping though.
Martini, my friend. At least wait until the mission is complete.
Yeah, I mean, if Martini had waited for potentially the 2 inspects to be done, he would have also seen the swap. It doesn't necessarily mean that he would have seen the fade and been confident on it because he was really raring to shoot Queen there. But this is a schoolboy error. This is just OpiWrites having more games than Martini. Uh, this will be a lesson for Martini in future tournaments, future games, to not shoot until someone could actually be finished. Unless you really thought that that was a BM heading to statues for in the mission win countdown, which I just don't believe. So congratulations to OpiWrites, but it's an unfortunate end there for Martini, who's shown a lot of class throughout this set, and then just dropping the ball here in the last game.
I believe the shot isn't really for as much as mission completion, but it's just for walking really awkwardly. I believe that Queen ends up right on the edge of that pad. Which
No, that's a reason why you like them. That's a good thing. That's an AI-like thing because it's really hard for a spy to purposely end up on the at the edge of the pad, because when they do so, they're risking the fact that they just miss the pad entirely and then have to shuffle over and get shot for that a lot of the time.
Mhm.
So that's all of our sets here today. Really good stuff there for Martini. I think showed a lot of promise. But they're playing against someone here who's probably the favorite to win the whole term, or definitely one of them. And 7-4 is a respectable result. Hilariously, OpiWrites finds the win with Swap, winning multiple games here with Inspect Swap, which I wouldn't have necessarily predicted for anybody, but if you had to choose someone, I guess OpiWrites. Beyond that, if you guys are coming in here, we did also cast the Coddy Screw Loose. And with that all said, Yoshi, it's been a pleasure. I'm not sure we've necessarily casted together, but it's been good fun.
Oh, yeah, it's been a great time, and I wouldn't be against doing this again at some point in the future.
Oh, I wouldn't say that, but no, and most importantly, other than viewers like you, really we need to always shout out our host, and today it is Logorov Janine here doing the back work, and shout out everybody else who's been part of setting up Winter Cup and beautiful transition screens with the snow falling. I really like the products that we're able to put out here with the Spy Party community. If you want to be part of that community, we do have, well, obviously the game. If you want to get the game, it's spyparty.com, or go look into it on Steam. Or not or. In addition to that, I do want to shout out the Discord, both where they're hosting this tournament, but also just if you're picking up the game and want to get into the competitive scene, have questions, anything like that. It is a
and
fantastic community and fantastic Discord.
And if you want to get into the competitive scene, I believe we do have a tournament just for you right about now. Penguin Pool, a very casual addition to the Winter Cup, which has been very welcome last year and is pretty welcome this year as well. Is still going on, but the signups are still open. You can just sign up using the link in the Discord and get your taste of how competitive Spy Party feels like.
Yeah, it's an open Swiss, so it's perfect for new players. That all said, I think we're good to go. Anything else you wanted to add, Legorv?
Nope, I'm good to call it there. Thank you guys for joining me.
We'll see you guys next week for presumably the quarterfinals here of Winter Cup 22. You guys have a lovely rest of your day.
And have fun.
And have fun. Good luck and have fun.